Hi there, Coach Sage here with another Sage Running training talk. Well, this is kind of more of a rant, I guess, but talk about the goal setting process and kind of things I've learned over the years. Just kind of run through some of my personal experiences as well as kind of what coming from a coaching perspective and interacting with a lot of you on the community as well as athletes I've coached in the past, athletes at Sage Running, just kind of setting realistic goals or coming up with a series of goals and kind of that whole what goes into it. So I'll start with the personal story. Obviously, a lot of you guys have probably followed the OTQ series, my quest to train and qualify for the 2020 Olympic trials. Obviously failed in 2016 to run under a 2:19 marathon. And when you look at that failure, my last race at the Houston Marathon 2 weeks ago, about 50 seconds short. It's pretty tight margin, even in that sub 2:20 marathon range, 2 seconds a mile, right? 1.5 kilometers. So pretty tight margin, and Coach Shane and I knew it was going to be. And I had a whole post-race video on that. I don't want to come up with a bunch of excuses. I more want to logically kind of dissect the process and say, okay, physically, what went wrong? What caused me to not run 50 seconds faster? Was it this training? And usually it's a big combination of things. It wasn't the weather. The weather wasn't bad. The weather was really good. It wasn't hot. There wasn't a headwind. So I try to logically look at it and pick things apart. And tend to overanalyze usually. And I love the numbers. I'm a data guy. I love the science and the physiology, things like that. But, it wasn't a total failure. I'm proud of that performance. I did the best I could on the day, and I fell a little bit short. I exceeded my goal of placing way better than I thought I would. It helps that guys in front of me dropped out, and a lot of people were coming back to me, but I was passing guys after mile 14. Nobody passed me in the second half of the race. And obviously I didn't catch the real top guys, the real elite guys, but moving up to 9th place, I felt good about that. And I felt good that I felt so physically tired and so off at mile 16. It's probably the second worst I've ever felt at mile 16 in a marathon. You don't want to feel really bad at mile 16 in a marathon. That I was going to drop out, and I'm proud that I decided to finish, and I thought I was really slowing down and rigging up in the last 10K, when in reality I was slowing down, but it wasn't this horrible epic bonk and this massive slowdown like it felt like it was going to be in what have happened in my really much slower marathons. So you got to be proud of that, and putting it in perspective. The goal setting process is all about perspective, and putting it in perspective, coming off UTMB, tough transition. I don't mean that as an excuse. I'm just saying, for me, physically, I think that was a big factor. And missed the goal, but I'll keep trying. It's part of the process. And sometimes we fail a ton. I sent out a tweet a week and a half ago or so and said, you know what? Set a series of big, ambitious goals, and I'll get into the whole goal setting series, A, B, and C goals, or shoot for the moon goals, realistic goals, easier goals, harder goals, things like that. Set a series of big goals, ambitious goals, and go out and chase them with everything you got. And even if you fall short, at least you hopefully grew in the process, or you changed some perspective, changed in the process that made you inch closer to them. Maybe it's this limit that you're approaching the limit, right? You never quite get there, but at least you tried, right? No, I don't want to say too many cliches in this talk, but you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take, things like that. And 80% of my goals in running throughout my whole career, starting from middle school through high school, college running, post-collegiate running now, I've missed. In school, I wanted to run a school record in the 1500 meters and the 3K. Well, I wasn't even close as my school records at my high school. It was 3:55 in the 1500. I ran 4:09. I didn't even crack 4, but I wanted to crack 4:05. I wanted to crack 4. Didn't even come close. I was better at the 3K, but the 3K school record was 8:35. I ran 8:46 in high school. Got a little closer. I always had a goal. I wrote it out on a poster board. I wrote it down in my training log. Writing down your goals is a good first step. The goal is always I wanted to run under 8:40. And then after I did that, I was going to run under 8:35 and get the school record. Well, I never ran under 8:40 in high school. I did in college. But, in high school at the time, I missed that goal. Whereas in college, also had these time goals, sub 29:30 10K, sub 14-minute 5K. Wasn't even close on the 5K. I don't think I ever could crack 14 minutes in the 5K. And we'll get into the realistic and believing part at the end of this talk as well. But, the first goal was always to PR or to improve, or to, maybe it wasn't just a time goal, it was to win conference or make nationals or qualify for the Olympic trials and things like that, and did hit some of those non-time goals. But then you're strapping for, All-American certificate, D1, running a faster 5K, qualifying for regionals. It was a 14:10 standard. And, you're setting these goals, and, I kept missing those goals. I kept missing them. And so, maybe you could see the process here of falling short, but hopefully you could inch towards those goals. And that's why it's always good to set a series of goals, some that are easier to hit. And when it comes to time goals, for me, I kind of set myself up for a trap here. It's already hard enough to publicly state your goals and share it all over social media and tell everyone you meet, oh yeah, this is my goal, 219 or bust. And because it's dangerous, because the 219 is a very set black and white standard, right? I run 219.01, I fail. It doesn't matter if it was 1 second off. It would be a failure. I guess it does matter if it's 1 second. It's really close, but 219.01, total failure. Whereas a 218.58 or 218.59 would be total success, right? And if I had succeeded in Houston, and hopefully, I'm going to keep trying with this marathon goal, because I have till 2020, is, if I run a 218, and I'm actually going to rephrase the whole OTQ series to training for a 218 marathon, because I want to change my mental mindset, the mental frame, right? It was training for a 219 marathon. Well, I've run several 219 marathons, right? I've run sub 220 in 6 of my career marathons. Well, I need to run 218 or faster. So rephrasing the goal to 218, doesn't matter if it's 218.58, 59, I need to run a 218. I can't run a 219XX unless it's 219 flat, that would count. But, rephrasing the goal. But yeah, it's a very cut and dry goal. Whereas I could have gone into Houston being like, oh, it'd be nice to finish in prize money. Missed that by 1 spot. It was top 8. I thought it was top 10. But I was happy with the top 10 finish. Or, I'm going to try not to get past in the last 10K of the marathon. That was a successful goal. Or, I'm going to try to not have stomach issues, no nausea, right? The Spring Energy worked really well. The Canaday gels, it's a sponsor plug, with the Electro-Ride drink mix. I was really solid with that nutrition plan. So, that was a success. And feeling strong, finishing was a success, right? I didn't want to DNF. I've never DNF'd in a road marathon in my whole career. Well, I didn't want that to be my first DNF. I really felt like stopping. I was really sure I was going to stop, but I just kept going. So, those were little successes. Those were little goals that were accomplished, but the ultimate goal we failed on, so to speak. So, you're chasing these goals, you're setting a series of goals, and I'll go back again, rewind to my childhood, I guess. I was very, I don't want to say hard on myself. I guess I've always been fairly critical of myself, sometimes critical of others, which is not a good trait to have a lot of times, because it makes you kind of cynical sometimes, which isn't good either. You want to be positive, but trying to be logical and critical and set these ambitious goals, not just in running, but in other things. So like academics, for example, I put a ton of pressure on myself. Probably the most pressure I've ever put on myself was to keep a streak, and it kind of sounds kind of silly now, but I wanted to get straight A's from 6th grade to 12th grade and graduate with a perfect marks, which I was able to do through a lot of sleep deprivation in high school and not feeling good and being really stressed out about every test. And so, I did accomplish that goal, and whether or not it helped me get into the school I wanted to go to or not, I probably could have relaxed a bit more and still gotten decent enough marks maybe. I don't know. You don't know your past hard work and mistakes and things that got you to where you are today, but that's just a non-running example of focusing on academics or your career or work or your personal relationships, things like that, where you could learn to change your perspective and grow. And it kind of naturally happens, I guess, with age. But I don't want to go too far off on a tangent there. Super stressed out in high school, trying to hold that GPA, things like that. Whereas then went on to college and eventually did get not only a B, but C's and lower marks, and that kind of took the stress off. But anyway, I don't know where I was going exactly with that. I guess what I'm saying is you do have to be critical and try to be as logical and realistic with yourself, but at the same time, you also have to be a dreamer, and you have to really believe in yourself. And so what I guess I want to say is like, don't sell yourself short. You don't want to sell yourself short and not have the confidence and be like, I could never finish this ultra marathon distance race, or I could never run a Boston qualifying time, or I could never run a sub 3 hour marathon, or I could never run a sub 5 minute mile. Even though you might be close and you might have the physical capacity to do it, you're mentally kind of impairing yourself. And I've definitely been a victim of this as well. We all are unconfident in times, and that definitely has a huge effect on your performance, right? You need to do positive visualization. There's actually an app I've helped support and sponsor me, Active Acuity. You could check it out. That is a sponsor plug, but it runs you through a series of steps for mental training on the mental side of things, being mentally tough, and setting positive visualization and things like that, because it goes a long way to affecting your perspective and physical performance. Now, that being said, on the other hand, you can't be, I don't want to say unrealistic, but you can't set these really crazy goals that you're going to always fail trying to get, and it's going to be really frustrating because that might derail the other less ambitious goals. So if they're overly ambitious goals, if I said, I want to run a 2:10 marathon, sub 2:10, and make the Olympic team, probably not going to happen for me. That ship's kind of sailed. I don't think I physically have the speed to run a sub 2:10 marathon. I always thought in the back of my mind, maybe if I focused 100% on the marathon, I could run 2:15. Well, I only ran 2:16:52 back when I focused extensively on marathons for 3 years out of college. That very well might be my lifetime PR, because I'm not going to focus on the marathon that much for that long anymore, really. I do ultra trail races. I like doing that. It's not lucrative for me in terms of my career. Running 2:15 or 2:16 or 2:18, it doesn't really make that much of a difference. It would be a huge honor to compete as hard as I could at the Olympic trials and to place as well as possible, or to run those amazing times. I totally respect guys that chase their full potential in the marathon, and I know how hard it is to run a sub 2:16, or I've seen guys that have run sub 2:16, 2:15 in the marathon. 2:10, can't even imagine. It's a totally different level. So, I could say, that's kind of an unrealistic goal for me. Especially with the competitive depth in American marathon running, where it takes a sub 2:10 to make the Olympic team. So I don't want to make the Olympic trials because I want to make the Olympic team. I want to make the Olympic trials because I want to just qualify for the Olympic trials. That's really the goal. And it's just personally important to me. So you have to find a goal that's personally resonates with you. You might come from an athletic background in a different sport, and you might be a sprinter who has mostly fast twitch muscle fibers, but your passion is running half marathons on the road, or trail marathons, or mountain races that go uphill. Well, genetically, that might not be. You might be a better sprinter, right? You might have been a really fast 200-meter runner. You might have great coordination playing basketball or hitting a golf ball or tennis ball or something. But your passion is to do trail marathons now, or half marathons. And so you throw yourself into that, and you just try to reach your potential in whatever you're passionate about. So, I set different goals. I could publicly state them. Yeah, that's the other thing with goals is how much do you want to publicly state? Maybe you want to say, if I'm close to a Boston qualifier, I'll say I want to run Boston qualifier or a sub 3:10 marathon or something like that. But you might say that if your PR is like 3:15 or 3:18 or something. That's big goal. But in the back of your mind, your A goal is to qualify for New York. I run a sub 2:55, and that's a bit more ambitious, and you could get there maybe. But it's gonna take years maybe, and you might never get there. But you've got that ultimate pie in the sky type of goal in the back of your head, and you might not want to publicly state that one right away until you crack 3:10 and you qualify for Boston. Then you could say, oh yeah, but depending on who is important in your life and how many people you're going to announce this public goal to, you might choose to keep it private, keep it to yourself, or kind of maybe tell your family and friends. And it kind of keeps you more on track. It keeps you, you feel more accountable. It keeps you on track for your goal. But at the same time, it creates a lot of pressure, because you're like, there's this expectation now, and you've publicly stated it. So, it's a bit of a struggle and a balance there. And, I've definitely found that with my vlogging and the process here, but I like the pressure. I like pressure situations. It's not always great though, because you could overanalyze. I'm really ranting now on this training talk, but yeah, setting a series of goals and trying to be realistic. And I've done a bunch of videos on selecting your half marathon or 10K or 5K pace, or ideal pacing for the marathon. I'll link to them in the description below, as well as at the end of this video. What is a reasonable half marathon pace or marathon pace depending on kind of your training history, relative race performances, because you don't know sometimes and you don't want to sell yourself short. But after you've been running for a series of years and years and years, and you've been training at consistently higher mileage, you start to see bigger improvements, and then you start seeing smaller improvements, and then maybe you start seeing regression because you're getting better. You're getting better. Maybe you're approaching a limit, but you want to still run without limits. It's kind of cliche there. But anyway, that's kind of my rant and spiel, just random thoughts going through my head on the goal setting process. And it's a learning experience always. You got to be open to new ideas, new training. And back to my sub 219 training for a 218 marathon goal. I'm gonna try to listen to Coach Sandy a lot more. We're laying out a plan for a spring marathon coming up here. Probably announce it pretty soon because I'm pretty sure I know which one I'm gonna do. It's not LA. I need more time, but yeah, listen more to Coach Sandy's extra suggestions. Leave no stone unturned. Probably actually go to the gym and fix some of my core. Try to optimize efficiency in running form. Focus on still that speed development, getting that speed back. Because it is a tough transition for me, at least. Maybe not for other more talented people. I don't know. Coming from the mountain ultras, but ultimately, hopefully I'll hit that 218 or faster goal, and then I'll be straight back to the mountain, at least 50K, 42K mountain races for the rest of the year. But ultimate pie in the sky goal, I could say, hey, I'd love to try to win UTMB, and that's kind of a cocky goal to say, because I did really poorly at UTMB, right? I was 50th place. I wasn't even close to winning. Maybe my first goal should be finish top 10 at UTMB or top 5. But I'm not afraid of publicly being just putting it out there. You're gonna face some criticism when you say something like that. But ultimately, a big top goal of mine is to do really well and try to smash a 100-mile ultra mountain race on a big stage. Not this year probably, but that is always churning in the back of my mind. And it may never happen. I may never be top 10 or even top 5 at UTMB, but I'm going to keep trying because I want to be, and I want to go back to all these other races and do this and that. And at some point you have to rein yourself in and say, hey, what can I do to optimize my training to improve my performance, or improve my chances at least? Because if you don't give yourself a chance, if you don't really mentally believe, you're going to sell yourself short, or you're going to just not make the progress that you want to make. And maybe you don't make it, but at least you tried. And I think there's a whole value in the process of failure, and just changing perspectives as you go through life. But that's my rant on that. Again, feel free to comment below with any future training talk topics you'd like to hear about, stories you'd like to share, how your progression in running's going. Thanks so much to all the Patreon supporters for really making this possible, as well as all of you that have subscribed on here. You could subscribe. We do sell training plans at our coaching website, sagerunning.com. Got everything from 5K to 100 miles, any service, any distance. Thanks so much, guys. Again, check out the video on pace setting for half marathon, marathons, things like that. And stay tuned for more Sage Running videos.